Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I'm going to be sharing 3 dinner recipes that are all really easy to make and absolutely full of flavor. The first recipe that I'm sharing is for chicken Alfredo lasagna. Now for this recipe I am having it because I was actually testing it out on Christmas Eve. We go over to my in-laws and we have 2 different kinds of lasagna, and my husband and I are bringing them this year, and one of them is going to be this one, so I wanted to test the recipe out. And all you're going to do is start out by melting some butter, and then you're going to add in your garlic and let that saute for a minute or 2, and then your spinach and let that wilt down. Now the recipe I will have linked down below does call for onions, but my father-in-law does not like onions, so I did leave it out, and it was absolutely delicious even without them. But if you like onions, I would suggest adding them in. Once the spinach has wilted down, you're going to add in your heavy cream, and you're going to let that come to a simmer. You'll see in some areas where I let it come to more of a boil because I had walked away for too long, but it was absolutely okay. Once the cream starts to thicken up, you're going to add in your Parmesan cheese, and then you're also going to add in some salt and pepper to taste, and your shredded chicken and ricotta cheese. Now for the chicken, you can use rotisserie chicken if you would like. I just took some chicken breast and I boiled them and shredded them, and it was absolutely delicious. So now that our sauce mixture is ready, I'm going to start layering the lasagna. So I'm using an 8x8 because, again, I did half of the recipe just because I was testing it out for just my husband and I. And you're going to see here at first, I'm trying to figure out the size of the noodles. So I'm kind of going in and figuring it out. If you were doing the traditional recipe in a 13x9, you wouldn't have that issue. But I am using the lasagna noodles that you don't have to pre-cook, and I have never had an issue with them. I highly recommend using them. It's so quick and easy to do because you don't have to boil ahead of time. So you're just going to put a little bit of that sauce in the bottom of your pan, a layer of your noodles, and then another layer of the sauce, and then some mozzarella cheese that's shredded. You can use fresh mozzarella, or you can use the kind in the bag, which is what I'm using here. And then you're going to repeat that for 3 layers. And then it's going to be covered with foil and put in the oven to bake. One thing that I loved about this recipe is not just the Alfredo, because I love Alfredo, but that it uses the ricotta cheese mixed into the Alfredo, and you didn't have to do it separately, because for traditional lasagna, when you're trying to spread that over the noodles, it can kind of be a pain sometimes, but this was so easy to do, having it mixed into the Alfredo and chicken mixture. So like I said before, for Christmas Eve when we go to my in-laws, we have the tradition now of having lasagna. I'm really curious what you guys have with your family, if it's Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. We spend Christmas Day at my parents' house, so we have our traditional family foods that day. But let me know down in the comments below if there's something that you guys always have each year. I'm really curious what everyone likes to eat. The lasagna is going to bake at 350 degrees with the foil on for about 25 to 35 minutes. And then you're going to remove the foil, and you can broil it if you'd like. But I was happy with it. If you want it more brown on top, then I would suggest putting it under the broiler for a couple of minutes. The next recipe is for a honey garlic pork tenderloin. The first thing that we're going to do for this recipe is get our spices together to season the pork tenderloin. So that's just going to be some garlic powder, onion powder, dried thyme, and paprika. The recipe also did call for dried rosemary, which I did not have, but I will have it linked down below, so if you want to use that, you'll see the amounts that are recommended. I also left the salt and pepper out of this part because I wanted to do it on the pork tenderloin itself. It's easier for me to kind of estimate how much I need. So I'm just going to start out by putting a little bit of oil, and I just used vegetable oil. You can use whatever kind you like, onto the pork tenderloin, and then I'm going to salt and pepper all of the sides, and then I'm going to come in with that spice mixture and rub it all over. And then you can let this marinate, and I think that would be a really good idea. This night I was kind of making dinner last minute, so I didn't, and it had really good flavor. But I think anytime that you can let something marinate for a while with those seasonings on it, the even more flavor you're going to get. Now I will say the recipe that I used a pork loin, which is similar to tenderloin, but not quite the same. So I went ahead and did the tenderloin because that's just the cut that I prefer. Once you have everything ready to go, you're just going to heat some oil in a pan, and I just did a little bit because I had some already on the pork, and then you're going to let that sear on all sides. So you're going to see I'm going to flip it and let it cook all the way around, so that way you can get as much flavor as possible. While that's searing, I just went ahead and prepared the glaze, and that's just going to be some garlic, honey, soy sauce, Dijon mustard, and olive oil. So if you see me adding a whole bunch of soy sauce, that's because my tablespoon was in my dishwasher running, so I had to use my teaspoon. So I was kind of going in there a lot. But you're just going to stir all of that together to combine, and then once your pork is done searing, we're going to put this on top before putting it in the oven. So we both loved this pork tenderloin. It was absolutely delicious, but I would say the next time I make it, I would add a little bit more honey, just so that way that glaze is a little bit thicker, because it did run off of the pork while it was in the oven. But I was able to get a sauce from it, but I would add a little bit more honey to make it a little thicker. So you just want to put your pork onto a foil lined pan. This is going to make cleanup a lot easier for you, and then add your glaze on top. And then I went ahead and put that in the oven at 375, and I cooked it for about 15-20 minutes, and then I went ahead and covered it with foil so that way the honey wouldn't burn on it while it was cooking the rest of the way. So I always check the temperature of my pork with a meat thermometer. You want it to get to 145 degrees at the thickest part of the meat. And then this is what it looked like when it came out of the oven. I let it rest for a few minutes and then sliced it up, poured some of that sauce from the pan over top, and we served it with mashed potatoes. Our final recipe in this video is for a crock-pot barbecue chicken, but before you click off, this is not your ordinary barbecue chicken. There is a twist to this one. You're going to start by adding in about 2 pounds of chicken thighs to your crock pot, and you can use chicken breast if that's what you prefer. And then you just want to sprinkle in some onion powder, garlic powder, and a little bit of thyme. And then our kind of unusual ingredient is going to be root beer. And when I saw this recipe, it reminded me of the Dr. Pepper pulled pork that I make in the crock pot that my husband loves. So I was like, okay, I really want to try this and see how the root beer tastes. And it was absolutely amazing. So I cooked mine on high for about 2.5 hours, and then the chicken thighs were cooked, and you can see this is what it looks like when I came to check on it. And it was really quick. You can also cook it on low, probably would take about 4 hours, but you just want to check until it shreds apart easily with a couple forks. So as you can see, the meat is just falling apart, very tender, and it's cooked all the way. I'm just going to shred all of this up, and then I did drain off the majority of the liquid. I will have the recipe that inspired this linked in the description box below. Now in that recipe, they have you add the barbecue sauce when you add in all the ingredients in the beginning and cook it, but I knew that this would release a lot of liquid and it would be way too liquidy for how we like our barbecue chicken. So I did it this way, which is similar to the pork method. So here you can see I drained off most of that liquid, and then you're going to go in with whatever your favorite barbecue sauce is. Ours is the Sweet Baby Ray's, so I went ahead and added that in. I don't measure this step. I just add some in, stir it around, and then you'll see I'm going to add a little bit more. So this is just personal preference here. All of the recipes in today's video were absolutely amazing. So if you try any of them, please let me know in the comment section below, because I would love to hear what you think. They'll definitely be in our rotation going forward. But I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you haven't done so already, please make sure that you subscribe before you go. And then hit that notification bell. That's going to let you know every time I upload a video. I try to upload at least one each week. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you so much for watching.